Welcome everybody to Gong Labs Live, episode number 16, the Sweet 16. I'm your host, Devin Reed, Content Strategy Manager here at Gong. Now you know what it is, every single week we have a sales show dedicated to you, revenue professionals, finding tips, tricks, and insights to help you be as effective as possible. Want you to close as many deals as you can and get as many invites to President's Club as possible. Now we like to celebrate everybody here, so if you're a first time tuning in, thank you very much. You help make the show go round. And a big shout out to the Gong Tribe, folks that are coming in every single week looking for ways to get better. We appreciate you, wouldn't have a show without you. Now, what we're doing is starting an email subscription list. So if you'd like, go ahead and put add me right now in the comment bar. What we're doing is sending you an optional calendar invite so you know every single week when we go live. That's Thursdays at 10 a.m. Pacific. And you also get added to our email list. We're gonna start giving you guys heads ups every single time we have upcoming interviews like the one that we have for today. Very excited about that. More to come shortly. Now, if you're not already, make sure you're following Gong on LinkedIn. It's the best way to get notifications of when we go live, alongside all of our written and awesome video content. Now, for this week's topic, we have an interview with Morgan Ingram. You probably know him from many different outlets. He's all over LinkedIn. He hangs out with JBarrows, so you know he's a legend. Go ahead and tune in for our interview here. For the folks who may not know, which I bet is a limited amount of you, Morgan Ingram is a sales guru. He works alongside legendary JBarrows. I believe he's the creator of the SDR Chronicles. I could probably name a few more accolades, but we only have so much time today. So Morgan, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. I'm excited for this conversation and looking forward to what we're about to dive into today.
Awesome. So Morgan and I were talking offline, kind of coming up with what we should talk about. And what really came to mind was the trends of where sales development is today, and of course where it's heading, so we can share some best practices and help sales dev and others be as effective as they can with the upcoming season. So what we kind of landed on is that there's some negative connotations when it comes to some of the more procedural parts of the job. And so Morgan, I know you have some great ideas around this. Maybe you can kind of unpack that a little bit just to get us to a good foundation.
Absolutely. So Devin, as you are at Gong and you're working with sales professionals, I'd like to hear your thoughts before I dive into it. Like, what are your perception and what is your concept on prospecting right now? And what are some things on LinkedIn that you've seen that's got you thinking as of late?
Yeah, definitely. I think when it comes to prospecting as a whole right now, I think we've gone away from the volume game. When I first got into the game about 6 years ago, getting a lot of touches, if you will, as wide of a net as possible was the goal. People started getting bombarded with emails. Cold calling is definitely not novel, and people are doing it pretty poorly. So then it started, okay, how can we be hyper-personalized, or really just starting to be personalized, right? And now I think we're at this place of hyper-personalization. People are using technology like Sendoso to reach out and send nice or thoughtful gifts. So it's definitely become one of these things where just going and hitting it hard doesn't really work. You really need to be working smart.
Absolutely, and that's the question that you asked is like the same point that I'm making here that I'm about to is we've gotten in a place where spray and pray is one of those things where organizations want to stay away from, but at the same time, people are getting really locked into one process. And so that's like, okay, I'm really good at cold calling, so you know what, emails, social, whatever, I'm only going to do cold calling, right? Or I'm a really good writer. I don't like talking to people on the phone. I don't even know how to even log into my LinkedIn account. So guess what? I'm just going to do emails. And I feel, based on content I've seen, other people I've talked to, that people want to lean on something that they, from an emotional standpoint, are really good at, which as humans, that's psychological behavior, we want to do stuff we're really good at. However, when it comes to prospecting, I believe we have to take those emotional high feelings we have towards cold calling, emailing, whatever you're really good at, take that away and just focus on the process of success. Because, hey, I'm not the best writer in the world, but I know sometimes people respond better to email. And I know people respond sometimes better to video or respond better to a phone call or social. And we now have to focus in a world of prospecting on multi-threaded approach. For most organizations, it might be different for some people based on your personas. But for most organizations that are listening live today, and as a sales rep, SDR, BDR, ADR, AE, inside sales rep, whatever you are, focusing on what is your process of prospecting and not getting emotionally attached to what is bringing you success. You should be focused on that, but you have to have other layers of prospecting as part of the process.
Absolutely. We all know there's no silver bullet. I think instead of just looking for a silver bullet like an email template, it's kind of like there's no silver bullet when it comes to one medium. right? We can't just rely on, if you're a great cold caller, can't just rely on email. So it sounds like sales dev now, especially when it comes to prospecting, it sounds like you really need to be well-rounded now more than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned we have direct mail, we have Sendosos coming into play, like all PFLs, all those organizations that do direct mail. You have video solutions like Drift and Vidyard are out there. So there's multitudes of ways to reach a prospect. However, you have to use multitude of ways because how much noise is out there. And I always tell people 100 to 200 emails that a sales rep, that you're sending out from a solicitation standpoint that an executive's getting. So if an executive's getting 100 to 200 emails that are sales emails, then you have to think about how can I differentiate myself throughout the process, be unique, break through the noise, and create pattern interrupts, which I believe ultimately what prospecting is. And so, as people are receiving different outbound strategies, I know if I'm receiving something and someone's trying to sell me, it's going to be that unique approach that's going to get that person. Now, can you be personalized at every single step? That's not what I'm saying, but it's being relevant with the multi-channel approach to get the success you're looking for.
That definitely makes sense. I would love to know, I know it's going to side tangent, what are the things that break the noise for you? I know people view you as a sales guru. I subscribe to that as well. So I feel like if I was going to reach out to sell you something, I know I'd have to be on point. What are some of the things that break the noise for you?
Yeah, I would say someone who actually calls me, right? I normally pick up all the cold calls that I can. Obviously, there's sometimes where I can't, but if someone breaks the noise and they come in with the true reason on why they're reaching out, that helps. And I have a large amount of content that's out there. So if someone mentioned an SDR Chronicles or something of that nature, then I'm 100% going to open that or listen to you, whatever you have to say. So that's going to grab my attention. And anything that's pertaining to what you see me doing, training people, retention, referrals, how I can do that better, that's going to grab my attention. That's the stuff that I care about. But ultimately, if you were just trying to get me to open something and respond, it's going to be something that I'm directly tied to, which is my SDR Chronicles or something along the lines of keep dialing or make it happen with JBarrows. That's going to grab my attention. And a lot of stuff that what I'm mentioning there is relevant information. Like a lot of stuff that I get is like people don't even know, they think I have a sales team, which we don't. It's just me and John. So it's just stuff like that that's immediate turnoff. So it's just being relevant. But those are the things for me personally that would catch my attention. I know it's different for everybody, but the point is just showing that you're being relevant in whatever you're sending that person.
Got it. I love it. So it sounds like relevance, and you have to have a multitude of channels because you don't know, what works for Morgan might not work for me when you're prospecting, right? So you need to find whatever that outlet is. What are some of the common mistakes that, sales dev, I don't want to just put in sales dev because there's AEs that are prospecting too. So what are some of the mistakes that we'll call them prospectors make when, they're looking at their outbound approach from a, multi-channel lens?
Just taking a machine gun approach and leaning too much on marketing messaging that you haven't changed to sales ready messaging. So what I mean by that is long novels you send to the prospect and expecting the answer because you sent this non-value prop. Mm-hmm. And someone the other day asked me in a training, like, well, Morgan, why would I send short emails? Why wouldn't I say everything? And I always relate it back to dating. Okay, cool. You want to send a long email? That's like you going on a first date and then proposing to them. I was like, oh man, an amazing date. I want to get engaged with you. You're going to be like, what? Like, why are you trying to engage with me? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, we just had a first date. But in the prospecting, that's essentially what you're doing by sending this long email. Like, you're giving them all this value as if you know them. You don't know them yet. They don't know you. So you have to come with little bits and pieces in the beginning. I feel like that is the number one mistake that I see across from prospecting is the emails that I get, phone calls, is coming in with something long and drawn out that I don't care about at all. So I think that's a big piece. I think number two, and you probably heard this on a lot of LinkedIn comments and a lot of content. Kevin Dorsey posts about it. Keenan posts about it. John's talked to me about it 1,000 times. Like asking the right questions. I think sometimes we don't think about the questions that we really ask and figuring out does that lead to the next steps of a close. And that's something that I'm continuously getting better at. Not saying that I'm the expert of asking questions, but I do know that's important. That should be point of emphasis every single time. Is what are those questions that I'm asking to really drive home? And I think if I had to add a third piece there, it isn't building a brand. I feel like that's super valuable. That's a hot topic right now. Cool, awesome. But not everyone's trying to be the next Gary Vee or be the next, like, I don't know, whatever you want to be. But the whole point is that like where you really want to focus on is understanding your buyers and personas. So that's listening to their podcasts, that's getting the right information, that's understanding their language, so you're not being off on that. And, Devin, I would throw the question back on you. Like, what are some things that you might see? You're probably getting prospected that are turnoffs for you, and stuff that you've seen great reps do and great reps that are doing at Gong. What is their leading towards success when it comes to prospecting?
Yeah, I love it. I would say, real quick, to go back to what you said about kind of the long email approach and the dating, right? You sit down for coffee or dinner, and before you know it, they're, asking you to propose. Yeah. It's kind of this weird thing where what's happening is, especially for outbound leads, is the person that you've outbounded doesn't know anything about you. Right. But the prospector knows a lot because they've done a ton of research, right? And so they're putting almost like, too much good information right away, spewing everything, and it's kind of almost like creepy. It's like, okay, you clearly see something here, but I don't agree. Like, we're not on the same page yet. Yeah. So it comes off, a little brash. Versus what you can do to combat that is maybe take a third of that, and really just hook them in, but then ask a really good question. And I think some of the best prospecting questions are actually things that make them think versus just recite information.
Absolutely.
But then to get to your point of what works for me, I think I've gotten in the first 3 or 4 weeks here in my new role about 3 outbound emails, LinkedIn messages. I respond to all of them. I believe in good karma, and the sales gods are always watching. But the best one has definitely been someone who gave me a lot of context that they had already spoken to a bunch of people at my company. So I was familiar with the company. She was like, hey, here's why I'm reaching out. I know you're brand new, which is the first thing I look for because, right when you switch your title, you're on someone's LinkedIn Navigator list, on a Monday morning, and it's like all these, prospectors are going to hit you up. So I was like, okay, you acknowledge that I'm new and probably don't know what I'm doing yet. Fairly true. Gave me a bunch of context that she had talked to other people in my company. So I'm like, okay. And then she's like, I would just like 10 minutes for you to coach me. And if it works out for you, that'd be great. Or something, she worded it a little differently. So it wasn't quite as, give. But I was happy to take the call. Really nice call. She even sent me $5 Starbucks afterward. Wasn't necessary or asked for, but it kind of just like says this, nice reciprocity law going on there. Alternatively, I got one that it wasn't so well done, which is kind of asking me about things that I kind of clearly from LinkedIn don't have any touch on in the company, right? I won't say what it is. I won't throw anyone under the bus by any means, but it was like if you just looked at my LinkedIn, you should probably know this offering has nothing to do with my role. And then the ask was just for time. I one time talk to you. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to tell you here, like, I'm not the right person, but I'll even intro you if you can give me like, a little bit of give here, I'll help you. And I didn't get that. So I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier, which is just really comes down to relevance, no matter the channel.
Absolutely. And it's understanding each points of those relevancies, messaging from those channels, because each narrative is going to be different. And the hot thing right now is LinkedIn voice messages, right? But the whole thing is like there's a narrative within that voice message that's different than you sending an email. The formula of how I break it down is always the same across all channels, but the way I deliver it is completely different. And it's understanding that and getting not emotional and like, oh man, for example, videos. Probably run into reps maybe you talk to. They're like, I don't want to make videos because it makes it look corny. All right, cool. But what if you started sending videos and then your prospects started responding? You probably wouldn't care if you look corny or not. So like that's my whole point. Like just because you feel some way about it doesn't mean that your prospects feel some way about that. Until they tell you that's the way that they feel, just proceed in a way of what's going to be unique. And if it doesn't work, then don't use it. But can't say something doesn't work if you haven't tried it yet.
Couldn't agree more. Let's go back to what we were saying with, when prospectors think their single channel approach, if you will, are really lacking the desire to kind of go wide. What are some of the impacts on that? What are some of the, kind of detriments to that approach?
I think you lose opportunity and you lose people that may want to talk to you, right? So for example, if you only want to make calls, and the person that you're calling doesn't have a direct line, they don't have an extension, but you don't want to send them emails for whatever reason, and you don't want to make videos, and you don't do social, and you only want to call, then you completely miss out on an opportunity to get that person because you can't connect with them through phone. So you're wasting an opportunity. No, that's a very simple example. It may not be that clear cut, but the example there is to show you all that just because you're really good at that one thing doesn't mean you have to only rely on that one thing. You need to create some type of scalable messaging with email. Maybe go talk to a coworker who's really good at it. Same thing with video. Like, why is this person good at video? And have a conversation and take a little bit of those tips to create your own. The whole purpose, though, is you want to have different ways to hit somebody, because you just don't know how someone responds to certain things. And I could ask someone, hey, this email right here, would you respond to it? Could be the same exact personas, same exact people, and one person would say yes and one person would say no. And in that, you have to understand that like each thing is different. And I just see it as like music, right? Like there's certain songs and certain artists that you love, and there's certain songs that you dislike. But at the end of the day, you could have friends all in the same group that like each other and hang out, but they could like a different type of song by that artist, but they still like the artist. And my point is that with that, we have to think prospecting that way, because you have to think about different ways to hit that prospect. There's no musician or artist or anybody that you can think of right now that's hot, and they're like, you know what, this song is the one song that I like, and I like this song, so I'm putting it out. If y'all don't like it, it's whatever. Like, they're not doing that. They have an album with multiple songs, and one of those songs ends up being a hit, and one of those songs ends up being good, and the other ones are average, and there's some of them that aren't good. It's the same thing with prospecting. Like, one of your touches is going to be a hit, and people are going to reply. The other ones may lead to that reply, but you don't know until you put it out there.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. What can our prospectors do to start to reframe the way that they view these, kind of like new channels, or in other ways, what can they do to reframe, seeing value in using these channels that maybe aren't their strong suit?
Yeah. So ultimately what it comes down to, let's say if you have a channel that you are not strong in. So let's say that, hey, Morgan, I'm not strong in making videos. Let's use that example. I get on video, I don't know what I'm saying. Cool. Okay. So what you could do is, let's say email is your go-to channel. You have a high response rate there, and that is, you are an email writing wizard. Fantastic. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to those emails that have got responses. You're going to use that same messaging, and you're just going to say it on video. That's all you have to do. Don't overcomplicate the process. If it's already working over here, just say it on video, change the language up a little bit, practice. Since you already know that's getting a higher response rate through email, you just have to articulate that through video. And then again, what I mentioned earlier, you can easily just go talk to somebody that's done a lot of videos or get their advice on, hey, what's the delivery? But you already have a success metric based on email. Or if you do phone calls, you can do the same thing. So the whole thing is, find the medium or channel that you're successful with, that you're emotional towards, and then bring that emotional state that you have on that messaging and put it in those other channels. And that's what I do for my videos and my emails, because I got really good conversion rates on the phone when I was a rep and still make cold calls a day. And I just take that messaging and I insert it inside my emails, my voice messages, and videos. And that in return gets the results that I'm looking for, because I'm confident in that messaging. The channel I'm not confident in, but the messaging I am. So if I'm confident in the messaging, I can be more authentic and true in those other channels.
That's perfect. So to recap, it sounds like, focus on the relevance of the message, not the channel, not yet. Repurpose messaging for other channels that's already working to help save you time. And then the third thing I've been saying recently, practice makes paper. In other words, practice makes perfect.
Yeah, I like that. That should be a shirt.
Well, question for you as we kind of wrap up here. When I think of you and your brand, I think of, really good video content, really confident there. Emailing is kind of probably the next tier. What are the ones where maybe you're working on yourself?
Yeah, so the one that I'm working on right now that I'm trying to get better at is the voice message piece. And that's just a new channel that's out there. And to practice, I think I've taken this a little bit to heart. Like, I do voice messages only like through my phone now to like my friends and family. Like I'm always doing a voice message because I want to get so sharp and do voice messages. And the reason that I've been working on that so hard lately and been so focused on it is because I believe voice messages are frictionless. And so what I mean by that is, at any point in time, people are on the move. Most people have AirPods or some wireless earbuds or whatever, and you can easily pop that in and listen as you're working. The thing is, if I send you an email, if I call you, you have to pay attention to what's happening in that moment. But you can pop in my message and be walking to wherever you're going and listen to what I have to say. And then in return, respond how you like to respond. If you respond back with a voice message or video, that's fantastic. But the voice message is something that I am trying to perfect, and I have been super diligent and focused on, because I believe that voice is the future, because with Echoes and Alexas and Google Home and all the stuff that's coming at Siri, right? I believe that that is the future because we're moving in a world where, because we move so fast and we're commuting and we're all over the place, it's going to be a lot easier for me to go to my phone and say, hey, Siri, can you get me my GameCube controller, whatever, right? Or, hey, Siri, can you give me my toothpaste? That's going to be a lot easier than me going and Googling that because I got other things to do. And so I believe if we could focus on a world of actually talking with our voice, with tonality, inflections, and things of that nature, it's only going to make us better as sales reps. And so voice has been something I've been very focused on because I believe if I can hone that craft and perfect it, it's only going to make me better on sales calls, discoveries, cold calls, etc.
Absolutely. You could argue voice is really the genesis of all communication, right? Started word of mouth. That's how we used to share stories and history. Then we figured out how to write. Then we figured out how to email. Then we figured out how to blast email. Now we got to find another way to go back to kind of that genesis, that starting point. Well, this has been great. Anything else you want to share before we wrap up and head over to our hot takes?
Yeah, so I would say just for everyone that's been listening in, I would say when it comes to prospecting, again, this isn't saying to be unemotional and you guys to be zombies and just put it in a route process. But essentially just think about the stuff that you're being very emotional about right now and take a step back and figure out what you can add to your process for success. Because at least from what I've seen in training other teams and in building my own process, I try to stay non-emotional to what's happening and just strictly focus on what is my consistency in my process that leads to results. And the stuff that I'm good at, fantastic. But don't get so emotionally drawn in like, oh, I'm really good at cold calling, so this is the only thing I'm going to do. And then you forget the other channels that can hit your number up to 110, 120, 150%. So that would be like my lasting thoughts for you all to think about as we are wrapping up this live session here today.
That's awesome. Morgan Ingram has free game for sale. All right, take a deep breath, Morgan. We're going to go into our hot takes, which sound a little tougher than they really are, which are less serious and more fun. So I'll start with the first one. Do you have any sales superstitions?
Sales superstitions. All right, to clarify what that question means for me before I dive into that. Like, what do you mean by sales superstitions?
So a few ones on the call, or excuse me, other interviews have been for me, for example, if I know I have a big closing day or closing week, I've been known to rock my favorite Jordans or Nikes in the office. Other people might wear their lucky sales socks, things of that nature.
Got it. Okay, so mine is I have to wear Stance socks. That's me. So I don't know if y'all are Stance fans. I'm a massive Stance fan. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I'm like the biggest Stance fan in the world. So I have like 5 go-to Stance socks that I wear if like, okay, like it's a big training day for a sales team, or there's a big call that I have to be on. There's like 5 pair of go-to socks that I wear before I get on that call. So I just have to feel comfortable in my state. So I have like those little superstitions and things of that nature. And it's why I wear the fedora. Like it's all little stuff like that. Like it's like I have to have that locked in moment to help me make sure that I'm successful.
I give that a cosign as well. I'm wearing Stance socks right now. I won't show them. I got the Migos culture too. For any deep Stance socks fans or hip hop fans, you know what's up. All right, next one is you're prepping for a big sales meeting, presentation. What's your go-to pump-up song?
I like this. My go-to pump-up song is Travis Scott, Stargazing. I'm probably the biggest Travis Scott fan in the entire world. Again, most people know that, but yeah, Stargazing is mine, and then follow up by Butterfly Effect with Travis Scott, and then I'm ready to go after that.
I have to agree. When the drum kick starts at Stargazing very beginning, it's on my gym playlist, so similar vibe there.
It's automatic vibes when you hear that. Like you can't be like, oh, I hate this song. It's like you just get out of here. Like that's not the case.
No, it's a hit every time. All right, what is the best compliment that a prospect or client has ever given you?
Yeah, so the best compliment that I have ever gotten, and Devin, to add to this effect though, is I talk to sales leaders. So when I get a comment by a sales leader, like I'm just fired up for the rest of the day. That means that like I did my job. Mm-hmm. So yeah, best one that I got was, hey Morgan, thanks so much for the call. This is exactly what we want our sales reps to do in their process. So thank you. So that to me meant a lot because I was like, great, like I'm doing exactly what I need to do. And, through the teachings I've got through John and the stuff I've been reading from other leaders and the mock cold calls that I've done, it's now paying those dividends. So that was one of the best comments that I've ever gotten to get that because that means I was doing my job the right way and making sure I'm building a foundation of sales the right way too, and not being seen as just a run-of-the-mill sales rep.
Definitely. Well, hey, from your energy to your content to your delivery, I'm a fan, and that's why, of course, you are who you are and you do what you do. So I want to thank you for joining us this week on Gong Labs Live. Any last minute plug that you want to do? Maybe you got something coming out you can share with the people?
No plugs here. Just follow me at Morgan J Ingram. If you guys have any more questions, let me know. But I appreciate it. And the only plug I got is keep dialing. So I got to say that. But that's about it. That's all I got.
Got it. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you joining us this week.
All right. Thanks, Devin.
All right, there you have it. Another week in the books. As always, make sure that you're following Gong on LinkedIn if you're not already. And we're going to leave you with the sales meme of the week. All right, we'll see you next week.